Welcome to the first episode of Man to Man. This is a new podcast, Man to Man podcast, and I had to call my coaching mentor, Coach Wells Gulledge. He's at Ashley High School, but let me give you a background on Coach Gulledge. So Coach Gulledge and my dad went to Lewisburg College together, and Coach Gulledge is one of over 400 games. He's played in 4 state championships, has won 3, produced 3 NBA players, 2 NFL players, and his 11 years at Kinston was 274 and 55, and was the Associated Press Coach of the Year in 2008. And you also, Coach, you have the key to the city, and I didn't realize that you had to even a date like it's a Wells Gulledge Day in Kinston. I think it's like May 4th or something.
I can't tell you the date, but look, that thing don't work. I tried that thing on everything in there, and it only works on one day of the year, and I can't even remember what day it was. But I'm so fired up to be here, buddy, and I miss you. And we had some good times together. The kids, you were a great mentor and coach for our program at Ashley, and the kids still talk about you today. But once you start spreading your wings a little bit, you've got to do what young people do, and that's make moves. And when one door opens, sometimes you owe it to yourself to step through that door, and I think you've certainly done that. So I'm excited about today's questions at hand, and just sitting here being able to get back with one another. You look just like your dad, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, identical. So it was kind of a small world that, you and I got together, especially after being sweet mates with your dad at Lewisburg before I went on to play at Mount Olive College. So, the world comes full circle. So you better be nice to everybody, because you just don't ever know how the Lord works sometimes.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, when I got out of college at Ferrum, I coached there obviously for a year, and then I worked your ECI, East Coast Invitational, and then the first time you saw me, you were looking down and doing like attendance, and you looked up, you're like, "Damn, that's Derek Mann," and I was started laughing because obviously you haven't seen my dad in a while either, so that was a pretty cool moment. And the ECI, which we'll talk about too a little bit, but yeah, I told people when I got out of Ferrum, like I wanted to go somewhere. If I was going to go, I applied. So basically, quick story here is I was like a runner-up at a D3 school in Alabama, and then I was interviewed for a second assistant job at Lander University, and the guy who got that was your boy Dory Hines, got the second assistant job. And the reason for that is because you basically reached out and said, "Hey, you recommended Dory to take that job," and so you move that piece, and then the piece that moves next is me coaching under you at Ashley. And I had no idea about that until I saw the thank you letter on your desk at Ashley of Dory saying thank you for like the recommendation, and it said Lander University. I was like, well, damn, that's where I was supposed to be. So funny how everything moves around like that. But I told people when I was still coaching, like if I was going to coach at the high school level, I wanted to coach like with the best of the best. And honestly, the staff with you, like Chuck, and then Coach Conover with his 20 plus years in coaching men's and women's college basketball. I mean, he was my assistant coach on JV. And then half the time I was looking at him like, what do you want to run right here? Because I'm 25 and you have 25 years of college experience.
Look, Coach Conover, he's man, what a great guy to just have around. And, he's kind of retired from the school component piece of it, but he still is definitely heavily involved in what we do. And you know how Coach Conover is. Sometimes he can make it, and there are other times that he can't, especially on away trips when he's taking care of some family members at home. But when he's there, he just kind of gives you that calmness, because you can always, and he just. When there's a timeout, we meet on the floor, and when he speaks, which is not much, but when he does speak, you always say, what a great idea that was. So, just having him around and having his input to what we know plus what he knows is, it's infinity, brother. So, yeah, we did, man. We had a heck of a staff, and that was a lot of fun. I say all the time, I'm like, man, we had one of the best coaching staffs in the state of North Carolina down at Ashley High School, and people just never knew.
Yeah, no, they never knew. I mean, I would tell people all the time, you have no idea. Like when I'm just in the office, like anytime you guys talk, is obviously it's like I'm a sponge. I'm just soaking it all in because like I've learned obviously you learn situational basketball growing up, playing in college and then coaching, but like with your career in coaching, Conover's career in coaching and playing, because people don't realize Chris Conover is his real name, is his full name, but he was a McDonald's All-American before McDonald's All-Americans in the state of New York, and his dad's a hell of a high school or college coach as well up
Yeah.
in the state of New York. And so, yeah, just learning from you guys. I mean, situational basketball, like the way you still do, probably call timeouts or your substitutions. Like I think about that all the time of like the substitutions you make after the second free throw instead of the first free throw. Because so many people love to do after the first free throw they sub in. But I learned from you do the second free throw, because if you make that one, then you can stop the whole game flow and then put your subs in and get ready to play some defense.
Yeah, and set your press. Listen, you mentioned earlier we won 3 out of 4 state championships. Well, the first state championship we were in, we played Andy Poplin at Concord, and Andy was such a great coach that he would at the end of that second free throw would always sub so he could really get his defense set. And I mean, they were good athletes. It was tied up going into the fourth quarter, and it was back and forth. I think we took one bad shot, and you know what? They took full advantage. They were there who they had lost to Dudley the year before, Greensboro Dudley. And, so it was their time, and we ended up losing, I think, by 6, but I learned so much, especially in win time, the last 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
I just learned a lot once I went back and started looking at the tape with those types of things. But also I learned a lot is, I think I really overcoached our guys the week prior to the state championship. And didn't just relax a little bit and really enjoy the process of getting there. And, they were already nervous. I was nervous. I was young. And we just, I think we watched too much film. We spent too much time on so many things in practice. I felt like I overloaded the guys. So, we were blessed to come back the following year. And when we came back the following year, I think the night before our last practice before the state championship game, we played dodgeball. So, you learn. Those are just one of those situations where I learned a lot from Coach Poplin right there, who had already been there the year prior and lost. And then he comes back the second year and wins it. So there's just a lot of things that, if you're the kind of coach that feels like you invented the game, it'll surely humble you really, really quick. So, there's a lot of things I learned from you, whether you know it or not, just by your experiences at Ferrum, as we were talking 2-side and 3-side with the ball. I really like that. We have implemented that, and that actually came from you, and we're still doing those types of things. But all in all, man, if you're just a student of the game, and I look at Hurley and I'm going to myself the other night, I didn't see as many of his sets the other night because of the, I guess, the feeling of the game is such a big game in a national championship. And sometimes guys get out of their comfort zone and do things that they certainly wish they had back. But all in all, I've been watching UConn all year, and Danny has great sets. So, and I heard him say after the game, we're going to recruit NBA players that are going to be able to fit within a system and play systematically to win national championships. And that's the recipe, man. It's, with everything going on with NIL and these guys entering into the portal thinking things are going to be better, it's really made me take a step back and say, wow, maybe the college game is not as influential as a high school coach. And I'm just happy where I am right now.
Yeah, no, a lot of things have look, it's been moving parts. It's been crazy with the portal and stuff. And I mean, now it seems like the recipe for success, like you saw with UNC this year, is just get old guys. Like if you're going to go in the portal, I mean, Cormac Ryan's 25 years old playing, and then you have a couple other guys. I saw that UNC had an older starting five than the OKC Thunder, and that's just that's how you win the ACC regular season when you have experience like that.
100%, man. You just have, I mean, they're men,
Yeah,
their brains have developed. I think I was a better player the first 2 years that I finished playing in college than I was the whole time I was in college, because I saw the game differently, just by being a little bit older. So 100%. I mean, I hate it for Calipari and, the way he was kind of treated with Kentucky by losing, to Oakland. But at the end of the day, Coach Cal produced kids and changed kids' lives and their families' lives for generations because of getting those young kids in. And he knows they're going to leave, so he does the best he can to develop them. But when it comes to, you can take all these All-Americans in the top 20 players, which he normally gets, but at the end of the day, unless they were coached systematically in a system, they're going to have growing pains and they're going to make mistakes. And, it takes maybe 2 to 3 years to get those fundamentals into those types of pros, to where they can go on and succeed at that next level. So, I think he's right where he needs to be in Arkansas. Sometimes a change is good, and wish him best there. And whoever's going to jump into that Kentucky job is definitely has big shoes to fill. But not only that, I think that just they have to be patient with the person that comes in there, because Coach Cal, he really he did a phenomenal job of promoting that, with Drake coming in, and those kids are just they were treated like NBA players in college.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I already saw Malik Monk personally tweet that he was going to be backing Arkansas basketball, and that DeMarcus Cousins and them are going to feel the same way. And so that NBA money is now going to be boosters at Arkansas rather than Kentucky because they're Cal guys, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I mean, look, when you have a great relationship with your players, which I'm going to talk about with you, that's going to happen. Like they were only at Kentucky for a year, and the only reason they're there is for Calipari. So it makes sense why they are following their money with Calipari to Arkansas.
100%. And when I get to a story about Brandon, it'll be when he came in and brought a big old book in, and he lays that book open, and shows all the NBA contracts, and the types of money those guys made by just attending that university and being under his tutelage, and guidance. And you start laying that out in front of parents and just say, trust me to raise your son for a year or two. And this is going to be, I've seen enough of these types of kids. This is going to be your son. This is what your son's potentially going to be making. He was NIL before NIL, but it just wasn't, they weren't receiving it right then, but they were receiving it on the back end 1 or 2 years at Kentucky. And then they were definitely going to get paid from the league. So, he was promoting the financial piece of it, not coming in immediately, but within 1 to 3 years.
Now, you're talking about that was Calipari had a book for Brandon Ingram when Kentucky was visiting. When he was visiting Kentucky, Ingram was, and he was like, "This is the money that your son can make if he comes to Kentucky."
Pretty much, this is the money that your son will make.
Yeah,
and that's probably not the only guy that. It was probably all the top guys that he took his little black book to, and carried it close to his hip. So, great. I mean, what a great promotional tool. I mean, that system worked for him for so many years, is getting those young kids in, getting them ready for the league. And then along the way, teaching those guys how to manage money and different types of things. And when they would go into the league, hopefully they listened and to what he had going on. So, I mean, it's kind of like that Kentucky was a gap year school for a lot of these guys. And along the way, I think a lot of those guys really remember the time and effort that he put into those guys, not just in basketball, but also in financial advising, what the league's going to be like, how to save money, and just different things. So, yes, it will be transferred to Arkansas, and I'm sure that black book will be with him. It'll just have a sticker on the front of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Calipari has it figured out to get guys to the league. That's no question. And but I want to talk about your relationship with players. Because look, you and Reggie Bullock still they're tight. Your son Baker and Reggie's son are close, and they're same age, similar age.
Let's see. Baker just turned 13, and Trayson is 11. So, they're within a year and a half of one another. And, I'm up in Baker's room right now because everybody's downstairs making a lot of noise, but they're on the gaming platforms with one another every 2 days, talking on the phone, texting, doing a lot of different things. And, I talked to Reggie last week. He's like, Coach, I still can't believe our sons are best friends. And I said, Reggie, you know what? Like I said again, God has a way of just putting things in people's lives that are meant to be. And certainly their relationship is one that's very, very special. They go to Carolina basketball camp together, and they have such a wonderful time. Matter of fact, Trey's last day of school, the next day he flies here. We pick him up from the airport, and he'll be with us probably for about a month, and then they'll probably, and then Reggie, we were just talking about that, Reggie's going to take them back like July 5th. So Baker will be down there with them for a while, and then we'll meet up on Reggie's Island down in Belize, which we had a really good time going down there. If you haven't seen Reggie's, it's Bullock Island down in Belize. It's going to be it already is unbelievable, but it's going to be an unbelievable source of income for him once he retires. It's built on a coral reef, beautiful yellow and turquoise fish, and just, I mean, it is something that is absolutely amazing. And we go down there and run a 3-day camp. I think we had 115, 120 kids for 3 days last year. And so, we're always looking to grow with those types of things, and have some future endeavors that we're going to be working on with definitely some Caribbean tournaments for sure.
Yeah, I saw that you went there. Did you go there last summer? I saw pictures of somewhere that you might have. You've been to the island before, right?
Yes. We were there 12 days last summer.
Well, that's right. You just said you did the camps. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. We flew down. I took the boys, and we flew down to Atlanta, and Reggie's, that's where his house is, and then the next morning we're flying out. I'm like, God knows, man, can't I get some sleep around here? And we're up at 5 a.m. And then next thing I know, I'm landing in Belize, and what a beautiful place, what a beautiful country it is there, for sure. Reggie's just really found a knack for the people there. They're just great people. Met the minister there that is over athletics for the whole entire country. 90% of their budget for athletics is volleyball and soccer. So there's a 10% out there for other sports. And, like I told the sports minister, I said, we just want to capture a little bit of that and bring basketball to Belize and the Caribbean, because there's such great athletes there. Those kids are just wonderful, wonderful kids.
No, that's awesome, Coach. I mean, I knew you guys were obviously tight and have a special relationship dating back to the Kinston days, and to see it keep growing, and now your kids are growing up together. I mean, I think that's awesome, and it shows your relationship with people too. Like Reggie sounds like a great guy. I don't know him personally. I know you obviously do, and then I have a couple friends like Dory Dory's a mutual friend. I have a friend from back home. We grew up together, AJ Clark. Him and Dory are friends,
Yeah.
and now Brandon, him and Reggie are friends as well. So it's cool to have these connections like this through the basketball landscape. And look, I just want to talk about Reggie at Kinston. Like I said, back to you winning at Kinston. You won with Reggie. You won with Brandon Ingram. You won with Brandon Ingram's brother. Is Bo Ingram?
Yeah, Bo. Yeah.
And
Bo.
yeah, go ahead. I want you to elaborate on Reggie Bullock and Bo, because Bo and Reggie were teammates at Kinston, correct?
Bo was a senior when Reggie was a freshman. And Bo was actually the Gatorade Player of the Year. A lot of people don't know that. They think just because Brandon won it twice in a row or whatever, he might have won it 3 times. I think it was twice. But Bo was about 6'4", could shoot it deep. He was part of our first state championship, a wonderful player, Gatorade Player of the Year. Bo was our go-to guy in that first. I think he was a junior. Maybe he was a junior in that first state championship that we lost, and then the second year, Bo was certainly part of it when we won it and against Trinity. So you know what, their dad, Donald Ingram, is just a super person. Donald does a lot for the community. The gym where those guys grew up. Reggie played down the hill. He played at Holloway. That's where Jerry Stackhouse and Cornbread Maxwell. That's where those and Charles Shackelford. That's where all those guys played. And then Brandon and Bo were up the hill, and a lot of guys played there. Just a lot of gyms that were open every day after school in Kinston. Probably 4 gyms open from the time school was out till late at night. And, that gave those guys a chance to be in a safe atmosphere, and not on the streets and they were able to, walk around with a basketball all day, play at school, get out. Those guys would say where they're going to be playing that night. And, sometimes I'd go by there and watch some of the greatest pickup games you've ever seen. And, just a special place. It's still a special place in my heart. But getting back to all that, we had a really, really good run. I think we went to 9 regional finals. I don't even, to be honest with you, I have no clue on what we accomplished. I know what we accomplished at the end, but just there's so many pieces that you don't have to win a state championship to be successful, as long as kids are your number one priority. You know what I mean? You can still you can still win everything you want to win, but you may not be successful in that last game. But if you're doing it the right way, even the kids that weren't with us, I still love to stay in touch with to this day. It makes me feel great to know what they're doing in their lives. And, my birthday was this past weekend, and, a lot of guys that I hadn't heard from in a long time had sent messages. At the end of the day, man, that's what coaching's about.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, you always want your kids, one, you want them to graduate, and then you want them to go, if they're passionate about basketball, play at the next level in college, whether it's NAIA, D3, D2, D1, and then maybe one guy in your career goes pro. You, in 11 years at Kinston, you had 3 NBA guys. You had Brandon Ingram, Herbert Hill, and Reggie Bullock, and then 2 NFL guys, Quentin Coples and Derek Rivers.
Yeah. Derek's still playing today. He's with the Texans. And
that's insane to me that you've had 5 professional athletes in 11 years at Kinston. That's crazy.
You know what? What's even crazier is that we're not even including the guys that went overseas and played in upper division overseas. And when Herbert got out of the league, he goes overseas, plays in the upper division, makes a lot of money in the upper division in Europe. Michael Jenkins, who played at Winthrop, same thing, goes over there and has about a 14, 15-year career, did really, really well financially. the great thing about going to Europe is if you go to the upper division in Europe and then you come home, nobody's really doesn't know who you are. They just said, "Oh, you're playing over in Europe." Well, those guys have had a really, really nice living, but they don't have the hangers on that the NBA guys have, if you know what I mean. It's a much simpler life for a lot of those kids, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, a lot less distractions.
But there's some guys over there that say, "Well, I went and played in Europe." Well, you went over there and played for $500 a month, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze sometimes in that, just to say I went overseas and played. But if you're a player and you're playing in the upper division over in Europe, man, I used to watch those games all the time when the boys were playing. It's electric over there. I mean, it's
great atmosphere.
Oh my gosh, it's something you can't really explain over here. It's like they're shooting off fireworks and Roman candles in the stands. I mean, those people over there, it's crazy. But we don't get to see that part of it. But there's a lot of kids that do go that way, and I'm probably Corey Rouse went there. He went after he went to East Carolina. He went over and had a really long career over there as well. So there's 4 or 5 guys that went over there and just have done really well for themselves and set themselves up to just kind of take it easy in retirement.
Well, with all your guys going to the next level in Division I through D3, like you have coaching connections like crazy. Like you played against, like you texted me during the Final Four, right, at national championship, that you coached against Dan Hurley when he was at St. Benedict. You scrimmaged against Kevin Keats when he was at Hargrave. And then you coached against Matt Painter when he was at Barton College and you're at Mount Olive. Can you take me through like those experiences? Like either one, like whichever one you want to start with first. Like, do you remember like Dan Hurley on the opposing sideline? Like, this dude's a maniac. He's a Hurley.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So we're down in the city of Palms. I can't remember if it was 2000 and was it 2008 or 10? I can't remember which year it was. Like I said, everything runs together. So we're down at the city of Palms, and we know we're playing St. Benedict. Knew it was going to be Danny. And their record really spoke for themselves. He had 2 bookends. I can't even remember who he had, to be honest with you. There's 2. He had the 6'9" and 6'10" kid. One of them ended up going to Louisville, and the other one went somewhere. I think both of those kids ended up being pros. And then, of course, his guard play, because of the way he develops guards too. So we're down.
I know you had J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson at some point at St. Benedict. I don't know.
I think it was Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Thompson.
Okay.
So we're in there, little old Kinston. We're in there. I think our biggest guy might have been about 6'6", 6'7", and we're just flying up and down the court. And I mean, every play, I can remember looking down there and going, what is he talking about? I mean, he was all over the floor. He was past half court. You know how I am. I just kind of sit back. I'm not too fired up about things. Our guys are supposed to know what they're supposed to do their jobs. I'm certainly, when I stand up and I have to raise my voice on anything as far as officiating, then I want those officials to know something's up. I need their ear. Danny never got their ear, because, I mean, he was in their ear all night long. They didn't even want to talk to him. But they had a great team. They were in a top 10 ranked. I think they ended up beating us by 13 or 14. But after the game, I mean, when I looked in his eyes and shook his hand, I said, this might be the most intense guy I've ever been around in my life, other than Pat Kelsey, who just took the job. So congratulations to Pat at Louisville, friend of mine. But that guy got it done. And they ran the triple post, and they just did a great job of punching that thing inside and working the ball from inside out, and he had all the dudes to do it. I think Reggie had a really, really good game, and Bo did as well, but we just didn't have the inside play to keep up with them, and they got their separation. But I thought it was a neat experience to be able for our kids to fly down and play in that environment. We also played at the Hoop Hall Classic. up in Springfield, Massachusetts. We played over in Hawaii at the Alani Classic, spent 10 days over in Hawaii, and my daughter took her first steps on Waikiki Beach. There's a great tournament in Peoria, Illinois. It's changed names now, but man, we spent Thanksgiving, sitting there, and the whole town just comes together. The mayor serving turkey and dressing. It's just like old school Hoosiers up in Peoria, Illinois for Thanksgiving.
That's awesome.
That's one of my favorite tournaments. And look, City of Palms is great. The Alani was such a great experience. Hoop Hall of Fame was an amazing tournament. But man, the one in Peoria, Illinois was just amazing. That the town, how they come together just for that basketball event. Washington High School actually hosts that in Peoria, Illinois. And then, we've went so many places. One of my favorite ones was the GlaxoSmithKline, which was the John Wall now. I can remember we lost to St. Raymond's in the finals, and then we lost on a buzzer beater against Rice out of New York. We played Christ the King look, man, I had a few little blemishes on the record at Kinston, but I can tell you this right now, those losses were against some studs.
You had 55 losses and 274 wins. I think you're allowed to have a loss or two in there, especially with elite teams that you played. And you scrimmaged Hargrave when you were at Kinston, right? That's who you're talking about?
I can't remember where Keats we got together. We got together one time, and I can't remember what is a multi-scrimmage. And we got together, and, the only thing I really remember at that time, I really didn't remember Keats at that time other than just saying hello. But, those kids were just, they were gap year kids, most of them, and they were big and strong. And I felt like we needed to take our kids to be pushed around a little bit and to kind of humble them. But what a job that guy's done, number one, for somebody to give him an opportunity at UNCW, he did a phenomenal job here. And then rolling into the North Carolina State job, I think he was in trouble before the ACC tournament. I really do. I think there was a lot of grumblings and things like that going down. But, hey, how does things change? How does a W, just one W here and there, change the way people look at you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all about perspective.
He's not any different. He's still Coach Keats. He's still the same guy. He's still coaching the same way. I think that the players just decided, hey, for us to win and move forward, we've just got to do a better job of playing together. But I will say this. I think that the adjustment into getting the post touches to DJ and clearing that side out for him, giving him space to work, because number one, he has great hands. He receives the ball, and he can actually he has twinkle toes, ballerina feet. He can pivot and pass at the same time. His bounce passes are on the mark. Anytime he's throwing to the shooter, it's right in the pocket. The kid is a great passer, and not to mention his spin and finishes with that left hand. Amazing. And I think when they started giving him the priority of the offense, everything changed, because he was such a unselfish kind of guy. It just made all the other guys' games step up, because it opened them up so much. And they had a phenomenal run, and I really enjoyed watching those guys play down the stretch.
Yeah, no, look, Keats is a Ferrum alum, so I love Keats because he's the guy that I'm like, that guy went to Ferrum. So it was awesome
right.
to get the Final Four, even though he beat Duke twice, knocked Duke out of the ACC tournament in the Elite Eight. But at the end of the day,
I know your daddy is about to fall out of his seat.
Dad was, yeah. You should have saw the text messages I was receiving. It was not great. It was not pretty, but you know him because you get him riled up back in the day with you being a Washington fan, him a Cowboys fan, and you a UNC guy and him a Duke guy.
Oh my gosh, dude, it was brutal. Sometimes he wouldn't even talk to me for a week.
Right.
but it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And, you know, I've just become more of a basketball junkie, and as far as absorbing it, yes, UNC was always going to be close to my heart. But at the end of the day, I think that I just like to see little pieces and from everybody, you know, to just steal a little bit here and a little bit there, because, you know, in high school, our dynamics change so much that we have to change as well. And if, you know, you're doing the same type stuff with the same guys, then sooner or later people will figure it out, but they got to stop it. You know what I mean? They still have to stop it. But yeah, those were good times. And then Painter was actually, I was playing at Mount Olive, and Painter was an assistant coach at Barton. And I just remember, I remember him. I just, because we were such a rival. And I can remember walking into the locker room. So we got there and we shot around, and he came out there, and I was walking in. He said, "Hey," I said, "Hey, coach, how are you?" He said, I'll never forget this. He said, "Let me tell you something." He said, "I need you to answer me this question." He goes, "Do you inhale or exhale on your jump shots?" He said, "Don't tell me now. Just tell me after the game." I said, "All right, coach." Went out there, warm up again. I started thinking, like, damn, do I really breathe this way, or do I breathe the other way? I mean, he had me questioning myself during warm-ups and in the game and everything else. They ended up beating us that night by a few. And after the game, he saw me, he said, "Now, which breaths did you take?" I said, "Damn, coach, I don't even remember." I was so pissed off that we got beat. But I remember him asking me that question before that game. I thought it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that had me thinking, like, do I inhale or exhale when I shoot? But
It gets in your mind. It
yeah,
gets in your mind because you go back out there and the coach just asks that question, and you're going, you take a shot and you really think about it and you go, "Damn, which way did I go?"
yeah. No, look, basketball is a crazy thing because it's those little things. Then, like the Final Four, we're just talking about Dan Hurley's sets are crazy. They're unique. They're European, really, the way they move without the ball. And then we talked about NC State. The simplicity of basketball sometimes is how you win games. Just throw it to your best player and let him go to work. And then if they help on him or double him, then there's an open shooter that's always going to be open opposite, deep opposite, like we always talk about. And then you just got to
Yeah.
knock it down. And that's all NC State did. Like there was no unique play. It was just he would post up 3-point line, back him down until he couldn't go anymore. Then he'd kick it and they'd hit a three.
Yeah. You know what? There's a lot of similarities in what State did and what we were doing too, because you'd see the Iverson cut
Yeah.
a lot by State just to get in. Not so much in the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament, but during the regular season, you would see that Iverson cut rip through a lot. You would see quite a few dribble out options, and then our old four game.
Or game, yeah.
Yeah, with the double stagger. I mean, they wore that out some. So, watching those guys run those types of sets, and our kids. Problem now is our kids don't even watch basketball. You know what I mean? There's
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
I know.
It's straight YouTube, man. It's all highlight basketball instead of watching the game in its form, start to finish, and trying to figure some things out. Looking at help side, looking at help and recover. How are we going to cover this screen? Showing hard. Are we going to ice it, or are we going to switch it? So there's a lot of different things that these kids can pick up. Like you and I, we watch the game. The old school basketball heads watch the game. We don't watch it I'm not watching a game to pull for somebody to win it. We watch the game to try to pull something out of it. And our kids now today, man, it's just it's non-existent. It's very few and far in between of the Kobe Bryants left that are just film gurus that just absolutely go out there and work hard, but also watch that film. And we put film up. I'll tell you what, D-Man, right now, coach, it's a 7-minute coaching philosophy. You cover something for 7 minutes, and then you move on to the next 7 minutes. Then you move on. If you're working offensive sets or doing anything, and you're talking or doing whatever we're putting in that day, work on it for 7 minutes. Even though we want to work on it for another hour, move on to the next 7 minutes. And if you're doing defense, 7 minutes. If you're working on the press, 7 minutes. If you're working on game winner, full court, 7 minutes. Because it's the swipe. I mean, it's the swipe right, left, whichever way you go. Hell, I don't even know which way you go with it nowadays. You know how I am with the computers and stuff.
I know you are.
The attention span of these kids now is just not there. You have to figure out how to put everything in about a 7-minute span, move on to the next thing. Because if not, they're going to get bored and they're going to start looking at the butterflies flying around or the squirrels in the trees or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you put it in, you hit it hard, you move on to the next item. And that's the biggest thing, man, is making an adjustment in coaching like that. We've found ways to adapt.
Yeah, I do miss the way you would just mince your words sometimes. You would make me laugh on the sidelines in practice when you'd get pissed off. The one that I can just remember the most is, and I still think of this once a month, is you look like a dog trying to piss on a fire hydrant. And that is one of the funniest things I think I've ever heard a coach say in the heat of a moment. And I can't remember what it was. I think somebody was trying to post up in the post, and the way they were trying to balance just looked awkward. And you just said that you like a dog trying to piss on a fire hydrant. It's one of my favorite quotes any coach has ever said in my entire life.
Man, I hammer them. I mean, look, if you can't have fun, and I use my whatever you want to call them. Them boys. Look, I'm no saint. I love our kids. I love our kids. I'm no saint, but really, they piss me off sometimes. And listen, if you're not going to listen to the thunder, then you're going to have to ride that lightning. 100%.
100%. I know. And the thing with you that I always think, I've known you for a while, so I always thought you were the best coach. I think you're one of the best coaches of all time, let alone in the state of North Carolina. But also, with what you've done from Kinston to Ashley, people don't understand, Ashley is just more of Carolina Beach kids, where you're getting a guy that plays lacrosse and you're begging him. He's your 4 guy and he's 5'10", but he's the physical lacrosse guy. And he's just hey, he's the type of dude you're hey, you have 5 fouls, use them, because you're not getting a 6'6" post player to Ashley. You're just not. So the way you coach, that's where, if people look at the win-loss record from Kinston to Ashley, people have to understand, it's just night and day. You're talking about pro college athletes to, you had one guy, Cohen Locklear, who obviously I coached and trained, was going to Washington Lee, which is a great institution. That's Division III, and that's the first real college basketball player you've had at Ashley. I think Blake Lewis went to Methodist for a year.
Right. Yeah.
And but besides that, my point being is the ceiling at Ashley is Division III normally in basketball, and that's still good. I went D3, but then from Kinston, you got D1 pro guys. But the way you're able to adapt with your surroundings, the games we've had against New Hanover, they played in the state championship this past year, but the way you could slow them down and make them uncomfortable offensively and keep them in the low 40s because you're throwing gadget defenses a man, these zones, that stuff to me I lived for those moments, because you love to get in a rock fight, and some of the times you would win those when you shouldn't have.
Hey, and some we would lose and we should have won them too, wouldn't we, buddy?
Yeah, but that just happens. That's high school basketball.
Yeah, it is. But you know what, though? And I tell people always ask me that. Are you still happy? Are you happy where you are? Man, 100%. I love our high school. It's a great school. Yes, we are down at the beach. We're down at the point at the very end of the spectrum at Carolina Beach, Curie Beach. You go any further than that, then you're in the dang ocean. But I feel like that we as coaches, I feel like I coach those kids just like those boys or guys at Kinston, held them to the same standards of of time in their runs and all those different types of things. The biggest thing is, we always talked about time and score and win time. We just seem to have trouble and trying to get our kids now to really believe that if we can keep it close, we can win. We can win. And that's the difference. The difference is that our guys in Kinston are always in the gym, whether I was there or Perry or whoever, they were playing somewhere. If they're not in the gym at Ashley, where our boys are. They're on a surfboard. Mm-hmm. They're on a dock. They're out there working somewhere. They're fishing. So, when we got them in the gym, that was just when we saw everybody come to the gym and everybody was there for roll call. I mean, it was like a daggum miracle. We had everybody there, and you remember that, especially when it turned hot. I mean, hey, we got over 2,000 students in the school, but it turns hot and they look on that surf check, whatever that app is, and the waves are about 3 feet. After lunch, you ain't gonna see nobody in there. It's still like that today, but I still enjoy the process of coaching and teaching these kids still to this day. And you would too if you were back. When are you coming back?
I know I want to come back this upcoming season. I got out of coaching this past year because I wanted to do more social media. I wanted to do more podcast and really media stuff. And honestly, like I miss it. I miss the competitiveness. I had a technical foul when I was at Ashley as a JV coach. I learned that from you. And then I got another one the last year I coached here. I got a T as the assistant coach, not even by the referee I was yelling at. That was the first that I've ever seen. It was horrific. You would have done the same thing that I would have done. But I remember when I was with you, you talked about how you were more composed than Hurley, and all I thought about was that one time that me and Chuck had to come get you at half court because you started running onto the court to the referee about a foul call, and we had to get you, and you got teed up. Luckily, you didn't get thrown out. We got you in time, but that's all I was thinking about the whole time.
No, it was. They sent me out of the game.
Oh, you did get thrown out.
Well, it was called a disqualification.
Got it.
So what?
Oh, yeah, that is right, because Chuck had to be the head coach. Yes, I remember.
Yeah,
now.
So the old saying, what had happened was, what had happened was, you remember the kid from Laney. The kid from Laney catches it and swings an elbow and catches one of our little guards, came up their armpit. I mean, caught him right across his temple. And the guy was looking directly at it. And when I was yelling, he should have heard me. So I just walked out there to half court just to make sure he could hear it. I've only had 2 technicals since I've been there. That was one of them. So I went upstairs and I was looking through the window, up there by the weight room, and I was watching you guys finish that thing off. But I would do it 100 out of 100 times again because I was there to protect our kid. And if I'm that's the first time I've ever been out that far. You know what I mean? So
I thought you called a timeout at first because you got out there so quick, but then everybody kept playing because I was hearing you yell. I was like, oh shit.
No. I had to get out. I had to get out there and go to war for our kid that just got smacked in the temple in front of somebody. And the guy felt so bad. So I got an ejection. But I think the official felt so bad is when he wrote up his report because he was right on it. When he wrote up his report, he did it as a disqualification. So, that ended up working out well. But, at the end of the day, those are. I don't think I've ever done that in my life.
Yeah, but that was out of body experience.
But I will say this: I would have done it again if it ever happens again that way. Because you got to take up for your kids, man. That's number one. Now, if it was missed, that's one thing. But I felt like at that point somebody saw that was in charge of the game and didn't make the call. And in that part, that's when I felt like it was justified in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to close with this, Coach. I'm going to go a full circle moment back to the Kinston days because I want to talk about how I was saying you coached so well. Like at Ashley, the X's and O's we always had. I just felt like we were always the better coached team going into any matchup just because you had the guys ready to play. You had the adjustments ready. And when Reggie Bullock committed to UNC, I think it was during his freshman year, is it true that Roy or Steve Robinson told you that he's one of the best freshmen, like well-coached freshmen coming into Carolina?
Yes. He committed as a 10th grader. Mm-hmm. And that's just not our guys. I think that Reggie had a lot of influences as far as down there at that rec center with a lot of guys in town that were just great mentors as well. When he got to us, it was really more about fine tuning and polishing things up. Number one, he was unselfish. He was one of the most unselfish players. Two, he was so fundamental. His jump stops were to a point that where he could do anything out of his jump stops. He was a great passer. He could enter the post with his passes. He could put it in the pocket of the shooters. He handled the ball well, and damn, he could shoot the piss out of it too. So, he had, once he got to Carolina, there wasn't a whole lot of having to teach Reggie. I think the biggest thing I remember, just questioning Reggie all the time. I'm like, what's a few things that are different about Carolina than what you did in high school? What are some things that we can implement that in high school to have you more ready to go to college? And it wasn't a knock on me. I was just ready to hear what we could have done better. And he said, Coach, honestly, he said the biggest thing defensively, he said there was two things. The biggest thing defensively is getting up the line and using your arm length up the line defensively. Use your length to where only thing you've got to do is reverse pivot to be in help side. So they used his length with these long arms, so he wouldn't be as close to the offensive player. He would be away, but up the line to be able to trust help if the guy went back, but to take away ball reversal made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Another thing is that Coach Williams and those guys don't want their good shooters following their shots. They want them staying with their shots, because you hear it all the time. You can hear it in the stands. You can hear it from other coaches. You hear it all the time. And now that my son Baker's in playing this stuff, and I hear I hear a lot of coaches in the lower levels going, follow your shot, follow your shot, follow your shot. And I always tell Baker, stay with your shot, watch it go in. So those were the two biggest things. Defensively, there were some things that we learned from him also, but those were the two things that really were in my mind that he came back and told me those were some adjustments that he actually, wanted me to implement. And I like that. If you have that type of long player, if you don't, then you can't really play it like that. But at the next level, you certainly can play that way with it right there. But look, man, Reggie was so fundamental. Brandon was the same way. Perry, once I left after that third state championship and Perry took over, Perry changed some things and to put his own twist on it. But at the end of the day, that foundation and that block, Coach Tyndall was very influential in when we were together for those 7 years. We thought the same way. We called the same way, so it's been great to see that progression with him and his success as a head coach as well.
Now, to go off of that too, I do believe in stay with your shot, because I feel like if you follow your shot, that means you're off balance already. So you're immediately running to the shot, which means it's not a good look.
Right.
But I want you to tell the alleged Brandon Ingram recruiting story, that because obviously like I brought up Dory earlier in the show. Dory,
Yeah.
like I said, mutual friends, never met him, but like I said, from you, from my buddy AJ, I know Dory through them, and I want you to talk about what the night before Brandon Ingram's announcement where he was going to college, because he wasn't going to Duke allegedly the night before he was committing, correct?
Well, listen, he and Dory were pretty close. So Dory would work with Brandon some, and so all those guys were really, really close, you know. And Dory would work with him some. I was at Parrott at the time at the private school there in Kinston, and Dory comes flying in there. I think I just finished up a 4-man workout or something, and we just sat out and chatted. He goes, I just got back from Brandon just got back from my place. I said, he's going to Duke. And he goes, Coach, he's going to Kansas. I said, what? He goes, yeah, man, he's going to go to Kansas. And I said, what makes you? He said he had the best time on his recruiting trip at Kansas for some reason. Just had a really, really good time and liked Coach Self and liked all the guys there. And, you know, it was also an Adidas school as well. And at that time, Brandon was, you know, he was an Adidas kind of guy. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll just kind of see where this goes. And because I think Jerry's team, so he played for Jerry's team in AAU, which was an Adidas school. Jerry Stackhouse's. And we just thought he was going the whole time with an Adidas school because State was high up on that list too. And so it really, really came down, in my mind, it came down to North Carolina, but they were under some scrutiny for whatever the fake class stuff was going on there. North Carolina State was high on his list because they were an Adidas school. If you think about it, where he went to take his trips, he did go to UCLA and took a trip. Was an Adidas school at the time. Kansas was an Adidas school. North Carolina State was an Adidas school. The only two Nike schools were Duke and North Carolina. I mean, that was it. Those were the 5 trips that he ended up taking. But, you know, per my source, Dory, he said he was going to Kansas. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I couldn't believe he was going that far away from home because his mom and dad, you know. Well, it comes out, and the next day, then he pulls that Duke cap on. And I think that he was really, really torn until the last minute of where he really wanted to go. And just, I think he snap hooked it. I think he made that decision based on his gut at the last minute. And man, did it not work out great for him, because he comes into Duke and then they have an injury. Then he ends up stepping in at Duke and having really a phenomenal year. And then the guy goes number 2 in the draft, correct?
Yeah, I think he was definitely top 3, but he went. Yeah, I mean, he had a hell of a one and done year at Duke. I mean, he was like,
yes,
6'9" score like that was crazy.
With a 7'3" wingspan. You know what I mean? And I can remember when I would come around the corner when Bo and those boys were playing, and I'd be in there tearing it up in the locker room at halftime or something. And I'd probably, you know, our locker room's sacred. You know how that is. So I'm in there, got something to say, and I'm mad about something, and I'm walking around, and I drop a word that I'd have to ask forgiveness for, and I go around the corner, and there's Brandon just sitting back there, just smiling. And so I had to kick him out. I mean, he got kicked out of our locker room more times than he can imagine. And but golly, man, what great times, and so proud of Brandon. He's had a heck of a career. Reggie's finishing up his career. You know, he's on the downstroke of his career. Hopefully, he can get maybe, you know, he's at 3 more years. I mean, he's at a year 12. He would like to play 15 years. And if he does that, that's his goal, is play 15 years in NBA. What a career that would be. And, you know, moving on to his other endeavors after that. And I'm just glad to be part of those kids' lives. And, you know, they're very important to me. But, you know, Reggie and I are a lot more close than Brandon and I because we spent so much time with one another. And also, when Reggie's grandmother got sick, he actually lived with my wife and I for about a year. And we moved him into college. His grandma passed away his sophomore year in college. We ended up setting up draft night, went through that process with agents and the whole 9 yards. So, I've learned a lot about a lot of things when it comes to that transition, not only from high school to college at that level, but from college to the professional level. It's very interesting, to say the least. Very interesting.
Yeah, I could not imagine. I mean, my best friend, his brother plays for the Clippers, and he's his manager, and so I hear those stories, but still, I'm not there to witness it, and so I can only imagine the type of things that you saw when you were dealing with that with Reggie right when he got in the league, and to this day, really.
I mean, look, we've just been so blessed. Baker and I went out, took Trey. We flew up to get Trey for the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago when they played Golden State. So we went to Baltimore, picked Trey up, flew into Dallas for the Western Conference Finals, and just man, what an atmosphere that was. The kids are in the back in the locker room running around. I didn't go into the locker room. They allowed the kids in there, so I was like underneath the building and just saw some people that I knew along the way, and was just out there talking. And they come out there, and I think Luka was throwing his shoes at the boys because they didn't want to be messed with. And then, oh man, what's the big old tall kid that everybody loves? He's in all those commercials. He's a big
Boban, yeah.
Yeah, man. He is he was really, really great with the children. He's just a team guy. You got to have a guy like that around that just, he's like the team babysitter, and he doesn't care. You know what? He gets a few minutes here and there, and he's great for a locker room.
Yeah.
And I think he keeps things pretty straight laced with teammates. And what a great vet to have around the locker room. Because certainly you have to have them. Some of these guys with what they're making and things that they're doing, you got to live your life. Even us, you got to live your life like you are on a podcast or you are on somebody's camera 24 hours a day. I mean, that's the way of the world. And a lot of guys get caught up not thinking that way, and they put themselves in bad positions. And they just got to be a little bit smarter, some of these young guys coming in. And be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting with this draft. You're seeing a lot of guys just get bad information because, you may be top 30, but you don't know how much work these GMs and everybody's done over in Europe, to where 6 or 7 European kids slide in there on top of you. And then you go from like 22 to the second round, which is not guaranteed money. And, things can kind of turn sour for some kids that are chasing that dream that come out early. I look at two guys. I look at the Harrison from North Carolina, and I even look at RJ from North Carolina. I think those guys can stay in school and make more money through their NIL deals as a senior, and maybe even improve their stock than going pro. It's just like the quarterbacks, the quarterback from UGA, the quarterbacks from all these big programs are making more money staying in school than they are on a rookie contract, like the guy from the Panthers, Bryce.
Bryce.
Man, he made more money at Alabama playing at Alabama than he did in the NFL.
Well, the thing to go off of that, like I'm a Duke fan, and everybody is so fascinated with the one and dones at Duke, and like with NIL, like my argument or my same thing you're saying. My guy example is Jared McCain. Like McCain can shoot the piss out of the ball. He's NBA ready shooting the ball, but he's not NBA ready ball handling. He's 6'3", 2 guard. So if you're a 6'3" guard with he's an average, maybe even a below average wingspan already. So you're gonna have to run point, and he does not have ball handling skills that are NBA ready, and he has 2.7 million followers on TikTok. So you're getting paid from TikTok plus NIL to come back to Duke. And people are like, well, the draft is weak. He could be end of lottery. And that might be true, but people need to stop saying their draft stock right now is the highest it's going to be, because what the NBA and professional is about the second contract. You need to get that second contract, because that first contract is not going to set you up for life. It's the second one. So if he goes because he's the 14th pick into the lottery, he might be in Europe or G League year 3 or 4 and not get that second contract.
100%, and a lot of guys bet on themselves and lose. Some bet on themselves and win. So, you better have some people that are in your corner that are running these schematics of who's drafting who and who's going after who. You better know what's going on in Europe. And what these teams are looking for, because, you find yourself, you think about the young man that played at Farmville Central, Traquavion Smith.
Or Trey, yeah. I was thinking Dayron Sharp too, but yes. Yeah.
You think about him, and, he comes out of state his first year. He could have gone and probably made a ton of money, but he waited on that second year. I thought he still had a really, really nice year, but then, different things come into play. He ends up not even get picked up at all, first or second round, and signs a free agent contract. Do I think he'll be in the league? Yes, I think he'll be playing in the league, but it's not going to happen right this second. He's in the G League right now. I don't know if he's been pulled up this year or not, but, you've got to be willing to be humbled. If you're stepping from, there's only a select few that are going to be able to step into that league and make an immediate impact. A very select few, maybe 5 out of everybody. So, and it's tough going from being the man and having that ball in your hand, and everybody calling your name, knowing who you are, and this, that, and the other, to down there serving water to the veterans and carrying their bags, so it's going to be a humbling experience for some of those guys. And, some of those guys mentally, honestly, I don't think they're tough enough to do it. And
I agree. I agree, because the older I've gotten too, like my stance is also, it's like, you're 18, like enjoy college, like just the college experience, because you are the man on campus. Like, especially if you go to a basketball center program, or like university, you go to a Duke, Carolina, like when you go pro, you are, like you said, the bottom of the litter, and you're going to get all these rookie haze, and you're going to be 18, 19 years old. And the vets are 25 up, so you're not going to have any really friends on the roster, and you're going to be isolated. You're going to be an adult. Just enjoy like 1 or 2 more years of just college, and you're getting paid now.
Yeah, I mean, D-Man, I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't understand how there's no footprints being left in college sports. There's no, if you're Baycock and you've been there 20 years, there's a footprint left.
Yeah.
But the banners, the rafters with your jersey numbers on it are going to be few and far in between. To be quite honest with you, there's really no legacies being left by the kids coming through today, and it's only going to get worse, because if you're making $1.2 million in NIL money and you're a really, really good player, and somebody's going to give you $3.5 million, then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know. And
a lot of those kids got to have to feed some family members, and I understand.
Same. Yeah.
They've put, they used to put a lot of people in tough situations. I think about Kelsey. He goes to Louisville, and there's a zero on. I mean, everybody's gone. Zero players. I don't know what Arkansas is going to look like with Cal. It's not going to take Cal very long. I don't know what Vandy's looking like in some of these other schools. You just don't know what they're looking like. And then your mid-majors are just getting pillaged
Yeah,
pretty
they are.
much. They're just getting, everybody's coming in and taking their top 3 to 4 players. And it's a sad time for me to see it that way. But then just as soon as March Madness kicks on, I could care less about all that pillaging and money and all that stuff. I just want to see good basketball. So,
Yeah.
we just kind of forget the things that we complain about, what's so wrong with the game. And as soon as March Madness hits, hell, who cares? We're watching some great basketball.
I mean, you're not wrong. App State had their best season in a very long time, and I think 7 of their guys are in the portal. And it's just like how can you build any foundation? Because that's like coaches leave already, and I see a lot of people always talking about like kids should be free to leave because coaches. But my argument to that always has been like these are grown men. Like we're talking about Matt Painter, he was an assistant coach at Barton College. Like you are struggling for money until you are 40 years old, and then you finally get a big break. Like that's why coaches leave to get better off for their families. And these kids, yes, they deserve to be paid, but at the end of the day, they're 18 to 22. These grown men have been struggling paycheck to paycheck for years. Some of them, damn, stipends, like not even paychecks, just a stipend pay with free housing. And so, what I'm saying is you can't blame. I think Dustin Kearns, I think he's the head coach at App State.
And he just got his extension. Yes.
Yeah, if he leaves after another year, he's now mentally exhausted because he can't build a foundation. His leading scorer, it used to be your leading scorer goes to the portal. Now the guy's averaging 6.5 points per game off the bench is going. You're like, where the hell are you going? And that's frustrating.
Hey, that's why, and kudos to Jay Wright. I don't think Coach Wright will entertain anything to get back in the game. I wouldn't think that I don't think Coach Williams misses it. I don't think that Coach Krzyzewski misses it. I think they miss the competitive spirit of it, but they do not miss all this.
It's distractions. I mean, it's distractions.
The who can be the highest on the pedestal. It's an I guy game. You know what I mean? It's all I guy mentalities now. And, even through the AAU system, man, you see it all the time. They're already putting these kids on pedestals in 7th and 8th grade. And I'm going, I mean, who knows? I mean,
Coach, I just saw on Twitter of the viral video of this kid who's class of 2032. And I'm like, why are you promoting this? This kid, he is good, but like, for his age group, but come on, that's 8 years away. Like, stop. That's what, to go to your point, stop doing that.
They've ruined it. They've ruined the game by doing it. Yeah. And then these kids spend all their time in the game, but they've never, I mean, when's the last time somebody's got caught up in the top of the tree and had to call their parents to come help get them down? That I was that guy. I was up in the top of that magnolia tree and got up way too high, got scared, and had to yell down there because there weren't cell phones in. Had to yell down and somebody go get my daddy. Those are the types of things. When's the last time some of these kids have ever built a fort, out in the woods and just be kids? And because they're always scrolling, they're always looking. I mean, hell, some of these kids' fingernails have never even gotten dirty. You know what I mean?
You're showing your age right now, Coach, but I do love it. I mean, I love that, to pick your brain about this stuff, because look, I mean, you basketball mind, won everywhere. You have the track record. Damn near every coach. You keep talking about Pat Kelsey. I played against him for 2 years at Ferrum because we were their bye game, and so thank God I missed DJ Burns. I was out of there before DJ Burns just came and tore up that conference, but I remember Pat Kelsey a couple of times losing his absolute shit in timeouts, and they would be up. I mean, we're the bye game. My senior year, we actually were only down 2 or 3 at halftime. We ended up losing by 16, which is really good for a bye game because like D1.
Now that's when he was at Winthrop.
Yeah, that's when Kelsey was at Winthrop. And
come here, son. Let me show you. Come here, son. Now,
but he was an absolute lunatic on the sidelines, but I knew he was like the guy was going to win, and he won at Winthrop, obviously won at College of Charleston, and now he'll probably do big things at Louisville.
well, here's the thing, man. It's crazy how everything comes full circle. All right, Scout, comes full circle because he played in high school for Coach Prosser.
Yeah.
Chris Mack, Kelsey, Dino Gaudio were all with Prosser. And Coach Prosser is one of my favorite all-time college coaches. And when he passed away, that was tough. And it took its toll on Kelsey and Mack and everybody. So when those guys left to go back to Xavier, I think Kelsey went with Mack to Xavier. And then Kelsey took some time off. He just needed some time off. And then got back into it at Winthrop. Then Chris Mack ends up going to Louisville. Things go down at Louisville. He has to step back for a little while. Now Kelsey goes to Louisville, and now Chris Mack goes to College of Charleston. Him and for Kelsey, so it's just it's an ongoing. It's called that inner circle. Once you get into that inner circle of Division I basketball, these guys really take care of one another. That's so hard to get into, you know what I mean? And there were several circumstances that I interviewed for several jobs and had some really, really good interviews. But you know what? At the time, it did not fit for my family with having two young kids. And in both instances one of the instances where I was offered a position, that coach lasted 1 year and was gone. And then the other one lasted 1 year and was gone. And then he ended up going to Europe. So where would I have been during that situation? Like you said, I'd have probably been sleeping on somebody's couch, but I got a 1 and 3-year-old at home.
Yeah.
So, you've got to be able to so-called ride that snake if you're going to get into those types of things. And that snake may take you on a ride and everyth's okay, but he may turn around and bite you. So,
yeah.
That's the way college basketball is today. That's the way everything is today, to be quite honest with you. I mean, how's the guy from the Milwaukee Bucks go from a winning record to getting fired? And then
I think they're second in the East, and he got fired.
I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And then, you've got professional athletes tweeting out stuff, and you know what? They just be blessed that you do what you do, fly under the radar. You know what I mean? And just go out, do your job at night, and enjoy your family. That's my best things that I can give to all these professional athletes that want to be / politicians. They want to be Stephen A. Smith and everybody else. Just, stay off of that. If you don't have anything good to say, don't even say it.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on. This has been great. I wanted to talk to you for like 30, 45 minutes. We're at 1 hour and 18 minutes. I appreciate you just chopping it up with me. It's been a hell of a time. It's been great catching up because it's been a while, but I promise I will be in Wilmington for a game this upcoming season because I got to see you and the coaches, and we got to go out after the game.
Hey, that sounds great, brother. But hell, I'm looking for you to come back and help out. Old man's getting gray, bro.
Well, yeah, that sideline is getting really gray with you and Conover. When Conover grows out their hair, he looks like Santa Claus.
Hey, you need to get Conover on here, man, because he would be. Look, bud, get Conover on here because he's got more stories to tell than I do. He's so I'm gonna let him know. He's gonna have to come on there with you for sure.
I will look on Conover. I'm get you to be in Reggie Bullock's ear about this. Anybody I'm going to tell you to recommend because I'm going to have a lot of people on that I know that are in the college and pro realms, and I wanted you to be the first on here because my basketball knowledge is all thanks to you and the years that I was in at Ashley because, like I said, I was a sponge in all those timeouts, all those practices, and I appreciate everything that you've given me.
Listen, buddy, you don't know how much of a help you were to me and to our guys, and our kids love you. They still love you today. Winehouse and the boys are still wild. They're still coming back thinking that they're still 18 years old again. They need to go get a job. But look, man, maybe we can do it from maybe down in Belize when we get down there, and just get on there and just throw noodles, and have a good time. That'd be super cool.
That'd be awesome, Coach. Yeah, I'm down. We will definitely stay in touch because, like I said, I want to talk more with you, and we're going to get together very soon.
You got it, buddy. Thanks for having me.